With I, Nazizi, the original Roots daughter.
And of course with I, the musical Sherrif.
Yeah, man. And it's that time where we have the Empress Divine, and we are joined today by Ireri. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. She is a lawyer and an advocate of the High Court with over 13 years experience, and is also passionate about equality and human rights, and made it onto the top 40 women 2019 list. So proud to have you, Anne, with us on the show. Yeah, man. Now, very quickly before we get into this issue, a quick brief about you, Anne. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what your work entails on a daily?
Thank you very much for
You're
having
welcome.
me here. It's a pleasure, and we look forward to the show.
Okay.
My name is Ireri, a lawyer and advocate of the High Court of Kenya, currently working as Executive Director of FIDA-Kenya. Okay. FIDA is the oldest women's rights movement in the country.
When you think about women's rights, FIDA. I've heard a lot of people bring that FIDA out. Enda tu kwa FIDA, peleke kwa FIDA.
Peleke kwa FIDA.
Yeah.
Thank you, and we're really delighted. This year we're celebrating 35 years.
Wow,
since
35
inception.
years of FIDA. That's
yes.
awesome.
And my daily job is really not a job because it's a cause for me.
Okay.
My journey began straight from law school in 2005.
All right.
And I had done my pupillage, which is a chambering after law school,
Uh-huh.
in the corporate world, and I had every reason to look forward to a big job. But then I was mentored to give some pro bono time, that's volunteer time.
Yes.
And I ended up at FIDA as an intern.
Okay.
And I remember getting to see my age
Was that
mates.
2005?
Yes.
That's when you went there?
Yes,
Wow.
when I first worked there.
Okay.
And I recall meeting such lovely men and young boys and girls who were facing circumstances, and the only difference between me and them is that I was lucky enough to get an education. And so for me, I found it to be more of a calling. It's not a job, and ever since I've not looked back. And here I am, Executive Director at FIDA.
Wow, that's
Yes.
an amazing
Awesome.
story.
Awesome.
Joined as an intern in 2005, and then now here you are as an executive director. Truly an Empress Divine. This is the kind of stories that we love to have right here on Season Circle. And also, it must be challenging in this era to be a woman and to be at the top of your game in the law sector. What are some of the challenges when you walk in a room? Do they go, "Oh boy, here's the FIDA lady again"?
It's interesting. I think for me, the first reaction is, of course, people get shocked when they physically see me. That,
Yeah.
oh, you're the lady at FIDA, because there was this stereotype about the women's movement.
Okay.
But there's a reason why. And I say that because we can get comfortable within our generation because our trailblazers paved the way.
That's true.
And so for us, it's just to demystify within the society, which is Kenya, why we've been clamoring for equality, and that women's advancement is not at the cost of men. That we
Okay.
can all be at the level playing field.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've been trying to work around a lot, to deconstruct the myth that perhaps society has towards women's empowerment and girls' empowerment.
That's
Wow,
amazing.
I
That's
love it.
amazing. Yeah, I love it too. And also, we called you here basically to celebrate you and the amazing work that you're doing. Of course, for me, the fact that you're at FIDA is already just a win, because I know how many people need help and can't get it, and how many people you've helped as well. And, one of the things we wanted to discuss with you today was basically catcalling. So we had Kaya Ranger and her daughter speaking to us last week, and a lot of callers called us in with so many things to say. So first of all, according to you, what would you say catcalling is, and have you personally ever been catcalled, and how did you react to it?
Okay, that's interesting. I'll start with the first question.
Yeah.
It's important for listeners and Kenyans as a whole to appreciate that catcalling is actually sexual harassment.
Yes.
Sexual harassment is illegal, not because Annie is saying it or FIDA, but because the law has outlawed it.
Not because Nazizi is saying fire burn it.
No.
Remember that, Sherrif.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Copied.
Yes,
Yeah.
and to be even more specific, the Sexual Offences Act 2006, and I know a lot of us are now tech savvy. If they just Google it and go to section 23, it actually speaks about sexual harassment. And this is one part of it. And we speak about it. It could apply both ways, but I think it's the biggest part of it is the indignifying manner that we've allowed it to be part of our society. We believe if you really want to reach out to either a gentleman or a lady, there are better ways of going about it.
Yeah.
So for us to sit and normalize the catcalling, and it gets worse, as you're saying. They're all forms. It's really indignifying, and it's important for us to call it out for what it is. There are better ways of approaching someone.
Okay.
And so it's actually illegal. Have I been subjected to it? I think I've learned how to deal with it. Of course, when we were much younger, but I think we were also raised in a society where we are able to show the gentlemen or the boys in our lives that it's not right.
It's not right. Yeah. All right, guys, we are joined by Ireri, very powerful woman. And, last time you guys were trying to overwhelm me, I held it down. I was like, this is unacceptable. But today I brought the big guns in. I can see Sherrif looking badly at me.
I'm not cowering. I'm ready.
I brought the big guns in, especially so that people can understand that it's actually illegal. It's sexual harassment. It's a crime. We'll be talking more to Anne when we come back, so stay tuned. Playing right here on Vibes Radio, C's and Seko. And of course, we've been joined by Anne Ireri, and we're so honored to have you here. She's a lawyer and advocate, if you've just joined us, with over 13 years experience, and the executive director of FIDA. And we have been talking about catcalling, okay? So, Sherrif, you had some questions.
Well, now, Anne, I'm coming to you as a typical African man. This is Kenya, this is Africa. That's what I like to say. Right? I've been telling
Don't
Nazizi,
make excuses.
I've been
There's
telling
no such
Nazizi
thing.
since last week that this is Africa, this is Kenya. We need to have things that tailored to what we do. And for lack of a better word or how to describe it, we tend to be out there in appreciating, say, how a lady looks, catcalling here and there. And of course, in some cases, there's, as per how the Vibes Nation are putting it out, that there are people who wouldn't be having wives today if they didn't catcall. Okay?
Yeah.
So
what
my
do you
first
have to
question
say?
is,
Yeah.
how do you, how would I, as a guy, know that I'm violating your space, or how much am I going overboard by or complimenting you?
Okay, I think two things. One, we always hear the reference to Africa, to culture.
I know, which is so wrong. So wrong.
Exactly. And in fact, I'm not an anthropologist, but if you even get those who've studied African culture, even from the point of dating and courtship and marriage, there are procedures. You've always heard about emissaries being sent.
That's
proper
true.
rules.
Proper rules,
There was value for respect and dignity.
Yes.
Coming to present day, I think what has happened is, quite frankly, a lot of objectification of women. That's part of the problem. And because of that, then society has okayed and normalized that instead of you approaching me respectfully or calling me out or complimenting me, there are all these ways.
Yeah.
And the challenge is that now when we normalize it and a girl or a lady says no and it's not appreciated, then we end up in the realm of violence, of assault.
That's true.
And so for us, I think what you've raised is a valid point, but we need to socialize boys and also girls as well, that there are proper rules and ways of communicating.
And
you can compliment someone and let it go. But the problem is when it becomes assault, it becomes harassment, and at some point it becomes stalking.
It does become stalking.
Where does it end?
Now,
So,
how would I know that I'm becoming a bother?
Because
I'm violating your space. At what point?
If you're a conscious Rasta man, you will know that you're violating, because
Naz.
there's body language. No. There's body language. You can tell the woman is not comfortable. First of all, you're doing this on the street. We're talking about catcalling.
Yes.
I didn't leave my house in the morning to find my future husband catcalling me on the road. It's not gonna happen. And so I totally agree with you, and this thing of it's African culture where African men are kings. They were kings with what? 12, 13, 14 wives who all respected each other, and they respected the king man, and that's how I know it to be. So this thing of blaming we're African, so we're okay to people on the road, I don't agree with it, Sherrif, not one bit.
It's not like we are blaming the Africans, but the thing is, I'm looking at it from the current context where we are today in the street, as in talk about the common man on the street, right? Who needs to understand that, okay, now I'm going too far.
My question is this. I'm trying to look for the best example. If you want to buy a loaf of bread and there's a Coca-Cola kiosk or whichever kiosk is across you.
Yes.
How do you go to purchase? You go and say, this is what I'd want to buy. This is how much it is. Supposing the loaf of bread is 20 shillings and you have 10 shillings.
Yes.
You cannot purchase it, or you now start indicating, perhaps give me half of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's for lack of a better example. So what we are trying to socialize, and why it's important, and it's I really laud the two of you for this discussion, is because as a country we must appreciate it is from this kind of behavior that we are stemming into assault, we are stemming into violation, and even the femicide and the homicides we are seeing in this country. When we have incidents reported of young men taking the lives of young women because they thwarted or rejected their advances, where did it start?
Exactly.
So we must have a conversation with the young people of this country, who are the present and the future of this country, that hello, there are ways, there are social rules. And I believe even when we were in school, we were taught this kind of behaviors.
Yes.
If you want to buy someone a cup of tea or coffee, request, the answers are two. Yes or no. If it's yes, I mean, you can have a ball and wait for the date. But if it's no, you need then to respect and understand no is not the end of the world.
Exactly.
Because we are also dealing with a culture where people feel rejection is the end of the world.
Yeah, that's
and so we
true.
must address it and know that there are ways of approaching people, and rejection is not the end, because then these are part of the systemic issues, and they are serious. And as you say, one might tend to isolate it as a catcall situation in the streets, that it's casual. But if you follow through, this is the same individual who is not going to accept rejection and eventually will end up perhaps taking the life of someone else.
Yeah, and that's true, because when we were here with Kaya and Zoe, right, one of the things that Zoe was afraid of was when someone just came and stood by her and even grabbed her hand. And there's a point where you feel like, I'm saying no, but my no is not being respected. And now she can't walk down the street. And this is what prompted us to bring you on, to tell Kenyans it's illegal. And first of all, as Africans, we're more respectful than that. And yes, guys, we're going to be discussing more about that and telling you what the law says about catcalling. But right about now, we're back into the mix with Muzikal Sherrif right here on Seas and Seckle. And of course, on that conscious tip, we're trying to educate the people and the masses, because we had a lot of Vibes Nation calling us in with some shocking comments about catcalling. And that's why we thought, let's bring somebody who knows the law. So, Anne, I love the point that you said before we left, that no is not the end of the world. A no is simply a no, and it might mean change your approach. Maybe you're being too much in a woman's face. You need to be a bit more polite and everything. But for me, the most important thing is, what does the law in Kenya say when it comes to catcalling? It's illegal, first of all, but is there punishment for breaking this law?
Yes, there is. Catcalling, as I've mentioned, borders on sexual harassment.
Okay.
Section 23 of the Sexual Offences Act speaks to sexual harassment, and it stipulates a minimum sentence of not less than 3 years in prison or 150,000 shillings. Of course, the challenge often is, because it's important to point out that we need to get the evidence. It's a procedure by the time you go to court. And really, it's uncomfortable even for a victim of sexual harassment. But the most important thing is for Kenyans to know it's outlawed. And even within be it institutions, whether it's companies or whether it's even schools, there are procedures of bringing up complaints. So it's important for the Kenyans to know that the law outlaws it, and should you be a victim, you're allowed to report it to the police, and action is taken up.
Okay.
I think we just spoke a bit about what my question was coming to be. From my own perspective, I would love to know, how is this law enforced, and how is evidence collected for it to be admissible in a court of law?
So what happens is, typically, like any other crime, when you have a verbal sort of reoriented crime, it's my word against yours. Word.
Yes.
However, if you have evidence that you actually rejected, and that's why we are now sensitizing the masses, if someone catcalls you and you do not want it, please verbalize your no. Because when you tell someone no, there'll be witnesses around who will tell you that they'll actually say, we watched him or her say no. If it gets physical, you're able to now even report and if need be, get medical treatment notes. So what we are trying to appeal is, don't be silent, the silence is what is perpetuating this impunity. If someone makes advances, whether verbal, in text, or whichever means, verbalize your rejection openly. That theory of no means yes, we don't know what that
We
is.
don't know what that means.
Yes is yes and no is no.
Yeah.
So we need to be very clear and sensitize the public. And so they should be able to find a means of reporting this. Once it's reported, we've also been working a lot with law enforcement.
Okay.
Because the stereotypes and the attitudes we have are not just unique to the public, even those who serve in institutions such as the police have them.
Yep.
But over the years, we've been able to sensitize them, and they're now taking the cases seriously. But most importantly, we have to start, we always say it's better to prevent than to react.
Yeah.
So we need to socialize our young people as they grow up to respect
In
each
schools,
other.
yeah,
Yes.
to respect each other, and
Yeah.
and it's really a strong point you've said there about also sensitizing the police officers as well and other institutions, because Zoe told us that she's even been catcalled by a police officer.
Yes.
So imagine being a teenager and then being catcalled by a police officer. You're wondering, where am I safe? Because now, if I go to the police station, are they going to make me feel the same way I'm feeling out here? So it's something super important. I agree with you. And, Sherrif also had a question I think he forgot to ask about the workplace.
Yes, but this what she answered was about the public places.
Yeah.
All right. So what if this happens in private, where there's nobody else who can be able to? You don't have witnesses.
Yeah.
So then it becomes your word against mine. You said, nimekuchokoza wapi? You see, you understand? But now I got into your space where at some point you felt threatened, that you felt uncomfortable. So how would you handle such a case? And what are you, say, like FIDA, in this case, doing to sensitize maybe the common man down at the village to understand that this is wrong? Yeah.
We're working in twofold, and that's a very good question. One is to sensitize the public, both men and women, about their rights. Because when it now comes to the workplace, these are labor rights. This is where people find their bread and butter. So then it's upon the government, through policies and through employers, both private and public, to ensure a safe space. And on the flip hand, we are working with the employers to sensitize them that they need to have policies in place. Policies that provide that sexual harassment at the workplace is wrong. And in addition, we can have a grievance mechanism, which means when I'm violated or I feel uncomfortable with a colleague or a boss, how do I report it?
Yeah.
Because I still need to keep my job. I still need to relate with colleagues.
That's true.
Often what happens, and this goes now to even the international movements like Me Too and Time's Up.
Yeah.
The dynamics legally of enforcing sexual harassment is that often society will blame the woman or the victim.
All the time, yeah.
What were you doing? Where were you? How were you dressed? How come you're the only one who caught his eye?
Yeah.
And that's a narrative we're trying to change, because ultimately, and I'll go back to the example you gave of catcalling, it is about power dynamics.
Yeah.
We've socialized, and in this case, the men in our society, that you can catcall a woman because she's an object. You have power over her. Would you catcall your mother, for instance?
course
You
not.
wouldn't.
Ooh, this is the same thing I asked these
there is
guys.
that. So it is about power play, and that's why we often say that we need to be very level-headed about this. And I applaud you again for this discussion, because that's where it stems. And allow me to mention something, because I'll be bold about it.
Yeah.
Part of the narrative in this country, and I say it as a proud Kenyan who loves Kenya, is the leadership in this country. Why I say that, and I'm not singling out individuals, but if you look at even the language of those who are in high office, how do they talk about women?
How
do they talk about the examples they give?
Yeah.
And so if I'm a 14-year-old and I'm looking at this gentleman who I hold high up in society, and those are the examples they're giving, that's where the problem starts. And that's why even as FIDA, we have not shied away from holding them accountable from the very top, that we need messaging, we need language from them, even if they're out in their rallies. Can they speak respectful language that respects women? The instances of giving examples of degrading women, of likening certain examples to women, eventually we'll laugh about it, but that's where the problem starts.
I totally agree with you. And guys, this conversation is so deep. I think you've just heard the most important part, is that 3 years or 150,000 Kenya shillings for catcalling in Kenya. It's illegal. We are joined by Anne, and we're still going to be talking to her when we come back. Right now, Musical Sherrif is still mashing up the place with what he does best on the decks. Yeah, man.
Radio Nobody can stop.
Yeah, man, and you are listening to Season Second, and we've been talking about catcalling and what the legal implications for this is in Kenya. And we just found out it's 3 years in jail or 150,000 cash money that you have to spit up because you were being immature, if I may say that. But first of all, I just want to say, Anne, thank you so much for joining us and for giving us this information. It was a real honor to have you here. I want you to tell us really quickly about FIDA, if someone needs FIDA's help, how they can approach, and yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. FIDA has 3 offices. The main office in Nairobi, take number 46, Light at Amboseli Road, that's along Gitango Road. We are also in Kisumu, and we are also in Mombasa. On our social media pages at FIDA-Kenya, that's Instagram, Twitter, and FIDA-Kenya, and the website. And feel free, there is a line where you can actually write a query or drop your challenge, and we'll get back to you.
Okay, simple as that, guys. Gone are the days where you needed someone to escort you to FIDA. You can just go onto the website and you can, follow the social media pages. And we want to say thank you so much from Team Season Circle for bringing this information and for being on our show. Did you feel the vibes?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, man. We give thanks, guys. And yes, we are going to be having you call us during the Wagwan session to let us know what you think about this law. Legal, illegal catcalling, and what you think we can do to sensitize the younger generation.
Vibes Radio, we rule the nation in this generation.